What is functional range conditioning? Passive range refers to the angles that are only attainable through passive means. For example, the application of passive external forces, better known as flexibility. Active ranges of motion are those ranges that are attainable through the application of active internal muscular force stimulated by our nervous system activity. It is these active ranges that provide improved benefits for injury prevention, improved performance, athletic or non-athletic people, and lasting articular health / mobility, strength, resilience, and neurological control. So how does the functional range conditioning work? It's a system of training which applies scientific methods to expanding active, usable functional ranges of motion. This teaches the nervous system how to control these newly acquired ranges. There are stages of exercises and techniques to implement in reference to the expanding the range of motion and then building a foundation, moving in a hierarchy fashion for the exercises themselves. First, it would be appropriate to increase the range of motion with contract-relax techniques. This will simultaneously strengthen and increase articular range of motion. Secondly, it is important to gain control over the new range of motion. The nervous system must be conditioned to maximize the end ranges of motion. And thirdly, once the nervous system has established control in the newly acquired range, the body must learn how to create more complex, sequential, articular flowing patterns with progressions of movement. What is flexibility? It's the ability to passively achieve extended range of motion across the articulation of a joint with the assistance of an external force. This has not been shown to improve function, human movement, athletic performance, or prevent injury. Flexibility or range of motion is useless if the person themselves have no active control of that range of motion. This would be representative of the joint positions that the nervous system is usable to control. We all know that passive mobility is the practitioner or the patient doing a home exercise program with bands or some type of external force providing an aid to joint articulation and kinematics. But what is mobility? It is the ability to control the usable ranges of motion actively. The human body has better control in mid-ranges. Mobility training can help improve control of short ranges and long ranges, better known as active and passive insufficiencies, which in essence can aid in improvement of articular stability and control. This is better defined as active mobility, which is flexibility plus control. It represents the amount of usable motion across an articulation under the direct control of the central and peripheral nervous system. This allows the curve to be decreased between the ranges of active and passive insufficiencies, broadening the range of controlled motion at the patient's end ranges. So why is all this so important? As our ability to generate force across the joint lessens, we lose the ability to actively control the range of motion. Thus, these long and short ranges are only accessible to us via passive means and are therefore essentially useless from a movement functional perspective. Further, because the longer and shorter ranges are not utilized, the joint tissues never develop the ability to absorb loads at those ranges, leaving them susceptible to injury. Mobility training can help progress tissue adaptation through loading. This can lead to cellular adaptations in the connective tissues of the body. Connective tissue, one of the 4 types of human biological tissues, include the following types: fascia, bone, muscles, ligaments, capsules, tendons, vessels, and 80% of our nerves. This tissue response to the training will assist with protection of injury and can help neurological function, maintaining articular health and longevity. Through these training methods, it is possible to convert passive range of motion patterns into usable active ranges. Throughout this process of improved mobility, there will be simultaneously development of tissue strength and resilience in the newly acquired ranges. The first order of exercises to be used will be stretching techniques. Agonist contract relax activation. These are the muscles we are stretching or lengthening, contracting them after a sustained end range hold for 2 minutes minimum. The agonist, ramping up the contraction slowly, starting at 10%, gradually increasing into 50% and eventually 100%. The antagonist contract relax activation. These are the muscles opposite we are stretching or shortening, the antagonist, looking to shorten or reduce the angle of the joint where the muscle cross opposite of the muscles we are trying to lengthen. Secondly, the second order of exercise will be followed with active rotational movement drills. This will explore the outer limits of the motion in order to stimulate articular adaptations, outer range control, and kinesthetic awareness. After our outer limit rotational drills, it can be preceded by progressive and regressive angular loading, using kinetic loading strategies in order to teach the nervous system how to control the newly acquired ranges of motion. This includes, in order from easiest to hardest, passive range holds, passive range liftoffs, multi-angle end-range isometrics, dynamic range liftoffs, and end-range circular training. Finally, the last phase of this training method will be followed up with eccentric training. This will be implemented to teach neural control of newly acquired ranges. This induces progressive adaptations in tissues involved in movement production, placing more sarcomeres in series, helping with injury prevention via progressive tendon strengthening. In addendum to these techniques, the patient can also perform irradiation. What is irradiation? It limits the extraneous motions of other joints, keeping them still, and feeds forward strength and energy to the joint we are training, teaching joint control. What happens is a co-contraction causing adjacent muscles to contract, allowing only isolated motion to occur in the joint we are purposely trying to train. Using all of these techniques will enhance flexibility and simultaneously teach the nervous system how to control the newly acquired ranges. Generally speaking, short-term increases in range of motion are neurologically driven. Long-term increases in range of motion are usually soft tissue driven. This quote-unquote simple control strategy assists in the development and the ability to generate power, strength, and co-coordination in the specific adaptations to impose demand ranges, the SAID principle. Any new ranges of motion will be able to be integrated and utilized into functional movement patterns for future use.